Isolation, if you're not careful, it can play tricks on your mind. You talk about social distancing. You talk about being not in a mass crowd and being 6 feet away from somebody else because you're afraid to catch the virus. But think about not being afraid to catch the virus. Think about your life coming to its end. Nails about to be in your hands, and you're wondering, how am I going to endure the agony and the pain? But here's what blessed me, y'all. I understood this, that sometimes God does his best work, not in crowds, but sometimes God does his best work in isolation. I thought about our senior citizens, many of them who have had spouses that died and children live in different cities. I thought about many of our single people who are already introverts and love to have the fellowship, and now you're home by yourself, about to go crazy, trying to figure out, I have no kids, I have no dog, I'm by myself, I'm in a state of isolation, wondering why does God have, I'm already uncomfortable. And sometimes many of us are afraid or uncomfortable to be isolated by ourselves. It's a human emotional response. But I came to tell you something, that this text teaches us that you can shout nevertheless even in isolation. Please understand that Adam was in isolation when God made an incision in his side and made Eve out of his side. Somebody shout nevertheless. Abram was by himself when God told him to leave the Ur of the Chaldees and go to a land that he would show him. Somebody shout nevertheless. Moses was by himself tending to Jethro's sheep on the backside of a desert in Midian when God told him, take off your shoes, for the ground upon which you stand is holy ground. Somebody shout nevertheless. David was by himself. His brothers and his father were inside of the house when the prophet came to anoint the next king of Israel. David was in the back tending to his flock by himself. And when the people in the house didn't think he was qualified, God met him on the backside of the shepherd fold and allowed him to come out. His head got anointed with oil after he had been in a state of isolation. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Elijah was in isolation when God met him under a juniper tree and told him, hold your head up, you shall live and not die. Eat your bread, because your journey before you is mighty great. Mary was all by herself when Gabriel showed up and said, Hail Mary, full of favor, you have been chosen by the Holy Ghost to be the earthly mother of Jesus Christ. She was by herself. Jesus was in isolation when he was tempted by the devil in Matthew chapter 4, but the ministering angels came to meet him. Peter was by himself in jail when the angel came and told him in Acts chapter 12, put on your shoes because God has performed a miracle. John the Revelator was by himself on the Isle of Patmos, but he shouted, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. Just because you're by yourself